In this next lesson, we're going to take a look at the purchase invoicing process within X3. The conventional way in which we record our purchase invoices is that we're going to be utilizing a three-way match routine. The first match being the PO, the second the matching of the receipt to the PO, then the third part of the match is going to be matching the invoice to the receipt record. So to enter in a purchase invoice, we're going to start by coming to our purchasing menu, then coming to Invoices, then Invoice Control. We'll choose our full entry transaction. At this menu, we're going to come over and click on the New button. We'll go ahead and specify our financial site. Our invoice type, we're going to set this to REG for just a regular invoice. Depending upon your folder setup, this might also be PIN to denote purchase invoice, or simply just INV. The entry number is going to be the system assigned voucher number. The accounting date is going to represent the posting date of the item. In this suppliers field, this is where you can come to specify your supplier's account number. You can use the magnifier here to tunnel into a selection list of account numbers. In this adjacent field here, I'm going to specify my accounts payable collective account. This may automatically default for you based upon your supplier setup. We have a pay approval code here that can be set. We have the authorized to pay setting indicating that this voucher is going to be eligible for payment. The rest of these settings in terms of the not approved, conflict, and delayed will all serve to prohibit the payment of this invoice, so in essence putting it on hold. Down here next on our management tab, we have the date, the supplier invoice date. We have the supplier's document number, or in other words, the supplier's invoice number. We have a pay to account, so this is going to be the account to which the whether it be a check or a wire transfer will be issued to. We have our currency setting for the document. If the currency is different than the company currency, you'll have an exchange rate that will default in from your established exchange rate table. We have Incoterms that we can specify on the invoice voucher, whether it be our FOB, XWorks, DDP, and the like. We have an invoicing elements section down here at the bottom where we can specify additional charges such as freight charges, other sorts of packaging charges and discounts. We have an analytical dimensions section if we wanted to associate the purchase invoice, for instance, with a particular cost center, market, department, project, and so forth. The internal reference here in the upper right is just that. It's an internal number that's not going to appear on any of the documentation that you send to the vendor. We have the due date basis, which is going to default from your supplier's invoice date. Okay, we have our payment terms. If there's an early payment discount, if your supplier grants you like a 1% discount if you pay within 10 days, that can be established through the settlement discount field. We have our taxing rule that we define on the invoice. The service start and service end dates can be used if you wish to prorate charges over a certain number of accounting periods. If the supplier is set up as being a 1099 type, their 1099 information will default in from the supplier record. We'll come over and click on our Lines tab. So this is where we're going to load in our receipt record. So to do that, I'm going to come over to my receipt selection tray in my left list. This will in part provide me with a register of all my open purchase order receipts that I haven't invoiced for yet. Can go ahead and select the receiver, and that'll bring the details over to my right-hand side. We have the receipt number, we have the product, we have our quantity defaulting in from the receiver, the net price defaulting in from the PO. Got your currency information. Any additional landed cost elements will populate within here. Okay. And we got our GL account information, our GL account codes, and any analytical dimensions that may be associated with the order. One thing to note when you're entering in a purchase invoice, it's important that the purchase order amount be equal to the invoice amount that your supplier is charging you. Otherwise, the invoice is going to go on hold. Okay, and you won't be able to post it. So again, here on the lines, we have our line amount from the PO. So back here on our management tab, that 468 euro, it's important that we come to this amount field here and specify it. Okay, making our invoice eligible here for posting. Okay, in the event that your supplier bills you for a different amount, you could go ahead and update that. Say they billed us €6 in this case. You see my invoice status gets set back to suspended. So to tie it out, I'll need to come over here to the lines tab, and I can go ahead and update my net price. Okay, then I have my line amount updated, and once again I can see back here on my management tab my invoice is back in a status eligible to be validated or posted. Over here on the control tab, this was going to give you some summary information on the invoice in terms of any tax implications there may be, the grand total of the item. Like I mentioned before, we have this concept of invoicing elements. So here, if there's, for instance, some additional freight charges that I wanted to have captured, I could go ahead and click on that and express the additional freight. Okay, with all the applicable GL account information coming in from the purchase invoice, or the invoicing element. And finally, over here on the costing tab, again, this goes back to some of the landed cost concepts that we have within X3. Okay, so with all that information, I can come over here and do a create, and that'll go ahead and assign a voucher number for us. So next, when we want to go ahead and post our purchase invoice, there's a couple different ways that we can go about that. We can do so by clicking on this post button over here on the right hand side. You get a warning message indicating that the item is now going to be posted and subsequent changes cannot be made from this point. A log file of giving you the document number of the journal that's being created. Okay, so that's one way by which to post the items. Couple other elements here on the purchase invoice. If you had cause to want to put this individual invoice on payment hold, you could do so, after it's been validated. You can come over here and click on the Open Items button. Then in here you have your payer approval field, so you could go ahead and change that to for instance, to like a conflict status. Say okay, then that will go ahead and put your invoice in conflict, so it won't be paid. Other things that you can invoke here from the purchase invoice, if you want to see the associated journal entry for this payment voucher, under the Zooms menu you can come to this accounting document, and this will tunnel you over to the journal entry function, and you can see the respective layout of your debits and credits associated with the voucher. Then here also, under our functions menu, we have this capability called an accounting cancellation. So this accounting cancellation in essence can unpost the voucher. Now there's a couple criteria for that. The original item, the journal entry associated with the item, it can't be finalized yet. The invoice can't be paid yet, and the accounting period needs to be open. So if all those criteria are met, you can actually come here and run an accounting cancellation, which in essence will change the status of the invoice back from a validated to a to validate state. So you can go about and either wholesale delete the voucher or make changes to it and repost it. All right. As it relates to the validation of the invoices, back here at the main menu, also under this purchasing invoices block, we have this invoice validation function. And what this one is, it basically allows you to post your invoices in batch. So you can see in here, we can run it for all companies, all financial sites. If you want to do it for all system users, we can go ahead and put a check mark in that box. You could define a date range if you're so inclined, or a range of voucher numbers. Come over here and click OK. Then X3 will basically go about, and for all your balanced invoices that haven't been posted yet, it'll go ahead and post those items. Okay. So finally here in our invoicing section, let's take a look at a couple inquiries. So under purchasing inquiries, we have an invoices section down here. So like many of our other invoices, we have the list of invoices. Will basically present you with the header information on the voucher. Then we also have the invoice lines, which will also give you product information. So in this case, let's go into the invoices lines inquiry. So in here you can specify to look at invoices just for a particular company, a particular financial site. You have a product and a supplier filter within here. Date range, if you just wanted to see invoices or credit memos, posted invoices versus not. So based upon how we set all these filters, in part will govern our result set that we get down here. Again, document number, supplier, accounting date. There's, all that information is going to be contained herein. There's the information relative to the product, quantities, and billing amount. Okay. Receipt numbers, order numbers, all contained herein. And like many of these other inquiries that we have, at the beginning of the line, we have an action button. If we go ahead and click on that action button, this provides us with the capability of tunneling back to the voucher record itself. Those are the primary features of the purchasing invoice capability within X3. In our next lesson here, we're going to be taking a look at the concept of purchase returns. So dealing with those cases whereby we get shipped a product that we wish to return to one of our suppliers.